carried on. Critical thinking is really advantageous to find logical fallacy in order to preserve consistency of logical structure. So critical thinking literally means that you understand objectively and theoretically something from a wide variety of views and aspects without accepting it unconditionally. So objectively, critical thinking is looking at something with suspicion so that people with a thought start from making hypotheses that the logical structure that forms something that they're talking about is not accurate. So it is a bit exaggeration, but depending on how people look at it, it's like nitpicking, and you just carefully watch for what people are talking about to indicate a logical fallacy and give them a question based on inconsistency of the logical structure of what they're talking about. So, but I know the possible range of things that the critical thinking can be applied to should be wide enough, in addition to mere discussion with someone. So, this can be used when carefully screening the consistency of logical structure of academic paper, and this can be also used when you view your own thoughts when considerably skepticism. So I think there are actually three things that we must keep in mind when we use this critical thinking in discussion or something. So firstly, no matter how and no matter when you use this critical thinking, unless you build consistency between the purpose of the activity or discussion and the direction of the critical thinking, it will end up being meaningless and nonsense discussion. For example, when you discuss with someone, you happen to find grammar mistakes in what he's talking about in discussion, and you immediately indicate inaccuracy of grammar about what he's talking about because you believe this corresponds to improvement of logical fallacy based on critical thinking for you. But fundamentally, considering the purpose of discussion that you have to reach one conclusion, this behavior is totally against productivity. So this behavior has no consistency in the purpose of the discussion. So secondly, we have to understand the concept of implication and explication that people have. So indicating inconsistency of logical structure of superficial sentences and verbal expression is totally nonsense and waste of time anyway. So there are so many cases that something that a person is talking about has various meanings behind it that don't appear in the external expression. And there are also so many cases that something that a person is talking about leads to a certain contradiction against their implications. So considering the direction of discussion, fundamentally we firstly need to ascertain what a person actually intends to mean and what conclusion he or she wants to make in discussion. So this is a very, very important thing, that this is a must. So we have to carefully ask a question to a discussion partner to make sure what thoughts they have without our prejudice, right? This is a very important action because this is going to be a significant prerequisite for critical thinking. So if we lack understanding of assertion of a discussion partner, logical structure itself led by critical thinking based on inaccurate prerequisites already breaks down. So we really have to make effort to understand the assertion of discussion partner and real intention of a discussion partner as it is by putting ourselves in his or her shoe. So it may sound pretty easy for us, but it's not that easy. It's quite difficult. It's very, very difficult because, people mostly look everything in accordance with their sense of value subconsciously. So how people feel about it and how people look at it is quite biased without knowing it. So we have to try to develop, exclusive attitude toward other opinions because we want to support our own view, our own opinion, our own ideas. So furthermore, if you want to truly understand what a discussion partner says, you also make effort to understand the personality of a discussion partner, because this is a great inference material when you make a hypothesis from what a discussion partner is talking about. All right. Conclusively, what I want to say here is like you just truly understand what a discussion partner is talking about in discussion without our prejudice. So this is very important things. This is very important prerequisite for critical thinking. And thirdly, we have to remember that there is no only one absolute fixed logical type that we have to follow prior to making one consistent conclusion. So I mean, the number of reasonable, persuasive logical structure exists as many as the number of people's interpretation about something that they're talking about, right? There is no correct answer in that, because more or less our thoughts are biased to our sense of value and something we believe. So in the first place, assertion itself is on the basis of our sense of value. So logic itself is just a tool to explain something you believe consistently. So needless to say, even if it is biased insight, if there is no opinion or assertion about something, logical thinking itself no longer exists. So I think critical thinking has characteristics that makes people lead to a conclusion or hypothesis about the issue that they already have logically based on their sense of value with realistic persuasive facts. So in that sense, I think even if critical thinking is within like logical thinking, so there is no different from persuasion.